Oh, what did it do? It I think that's fine. I was like, I think I just said audio only, which is fine, but we'll see. Um, man, it's been a minute. So,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, Brad and Ruben and I were talking about a 3D printer. Brad has his eye on one and trying to decide if it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I definitely know like what I'm gonna get. The Bamboo Labs P2S. It's like the successor to their most popular like consumer 3D printer. I'm just wondering if I'm gonna run out of steam after like the first 20 prints.
And I think that's the problem with any technology or things like that you buy. So, but I've heard that, I think, where did I hear this? I think I heard it from the Syntax guys that they actually ran the stats and they were actually using it quite a lot after like 6 months or 9 months. So
I
that's
listened to
really,
the gift guide episode too, and I heard
yeah.
that and I was like, I'm getting one. And then I heard Amy's response, like, I'm not getting one. And I keep going back and forth.
So there you go. That's the encouragement that you need. You need to get
Yeah.
one and print a compressed logo. I know.
Ooh.
I think that would be amazing. I think the difference is though, because Wes was like, I've used it like 80% of the time or whatever over the last 9 months. But like Wes is also a maker. And I can understand if you're a maker and you're like, I want to create prototypes of things or
Yeah.
I want to make, I got sucked into a YouTube video of this guy that was like, I want to make the smallest, most powerful MacBook. And so he had taken a Mac Mini and created this encasing for the Mac Mini, a keyboard, and it was like this long screen. There's like a cheap touch screen that he bought on Amazon and it like all collapsed down into this cute little thing. And I was like, that's amazing. But it's not like I would ever use that or buy it. I don't know. So
I'm becoming like less of a maker. I'm more like, give me the Apple product, make it work together. I don't care. And I don't know. I watched a video of a guy who made a Pokédex out of like a Raspberry Pi and like a little camera and then 3D printed the enclosure. And I'm like, that sounds fun. That's a good project. But I'm like, I can't build a damn website before I lose interest. How the hell am I going to do a full on software and hardware project? Like, there's no way. And in my mind, I want to do it. But like, I'm not retired. I don't have that kind of time right now.
So 4 years ago, I paid somebody to print something for me, and I was like,
Mhm.
this is the way, is just pay somebody else." I probably overpaid, but at least I got
Right.
what I wanted. So GitHub has a site, I think it's still up, where you can go get a 3D rendering of your Git
Yes.
history, and so I got it printed. This is from 2021, but I really want this is on my shelf like a trophy. I really want one of every single year. I just
You
think that would
can.
be the
There,
coolest thing.
the GitHub CLI has this built in now where you can run the command, it drops
Yes.
you the 3D file and you can print it. Like,
That's what
then
I
I could
want.
do
I
it.
just
If I
want these
had one, I
Zevish
could do it. You
trophies.
know what I mean?
But
Yeah.
I'm like, I do this once a year, and then what do I do the rest of the year?
So I have an idea here because I just I was talking about this earlier today, and it's things that you buy and you never use again. So in my case was a PlayStation. So I bought a PlayStation and an Xbox, and I never used them again. So now that the PS5 is out and I want to play one game, I just rented it. I just went on a website and
Oh,
then I
you
rented
rented
it
the
for,
PS5.
yeah, because I know after I finish playing that game, I'm not gonna do anything with it. So it's like £500 or whatever for a brand new one, and I only pay like £15 a month. And I'm pretty sure that in a couple of months I'll finish the game. So that's an idea. I don't know if you can rent a 3D printer,
Oh,
but maybe.
yeah,
You
that's a
can
good idea.
drive to your local library or whatever. They typically have them and you can like start a print, but it's not the same. And
So
don't get
my
me wrong, I have a little bit of disposable income from side work I've done, and I'm like, hey, if it's ever for anything, it's for junk like this.
Yes.
so my son, his best friend went to a computer robotics camp this summer. He
Mhm.
invited Isaac to go and he couldn't go just because of scheduling conflicts. But the whole camp, what they did was they built a 3D printer and then like they got to use it the rest of the week. And so anyways, that's kind of why my kids want it, is because his best friend has it. He's been printing all these like fidget spinners and things like that. But again, like after that initial go, I mean, my kids want it to print stuff off, but I'm like, what am I going to use it for?
That's what I don't want it to turn into, like a
Yeah.
junk maker for the kids. And you know that's what it will be. And I'm just like, we're just creating waste because of this thing.
Yeah. Oh man, hilarious. Well, we can go ahead and get into it. I'm excited about today's episode. Just for anybody that's tuning in, I will do the official intro in just a second, but it's going to be all about MCP servers. So this will be fun, just because I was talking to somebody the other day about how it is not just an API. I think that's kind of a common misconception. So let's get into it. Let me cue up the music. We have all kinds of things on the back. Okay, cool. I'm ready. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. In today's episode, we have our good friend Ruben talking all about MCP servers.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a design engineer at G2I.
Hey, y'all. My name is Brad Garapi. I'm a senior front-end developer at Cloudflare.
And as I mentioned, we have my good friend Ruben from Postman.
Hello, everybody. So it's nice to be back. I'm Ruben. I am a staff Vibe engineer at Postman. That's a title I came up with. So
It's not the official title. We talk about titles all the time here.
It is not the
That's
official
the coolest one.
It's nice to be back. I think this is my third time, and I remember last time we were joking that if I'm come here like 4 times, I get like a small, like a prize. I don't know. Who's been more than 3 times? We need to find out.
You
James
might
Perkins, I feel like is up there. Josh Goldberg, maybe.
Yeah.
And Michael Chan.
There you go. I think I'm not. Yeah. I thought I was a bit far ahead in the leaderboard. I think these guys are regulars. But from the guests, I am. Third time here. Thanks for inviting me again.
Yeah, of course. Ruben and I ran into each other last week in person at React Summit in New York City, which was one of my favorite conferences. I don't know how many conferences you went to this year, Ruben, but this year I feel like I went to some of the best ones that I've been to. No shade to anybody else, but I think some of it was I also just got to do some things that I hadn't done before. So I went to Canada, never been to Canada before for Web Unleashed, did React Summit. I've never been to New York by myself, so that was kind of interesting. And then I got to MC a conference in Boston, which was also fun.
Oh, wow. That was a really good one. Actually, something that I noticed is that I ended up going to most of the talks, which I don't usually do. I usually just hang out in the hallway track. But the auditorium was beautiful. That massive screen in the planetarium, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the talks were really good. So actually, yeah, that was a good selection of talks for React Summit. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so it was at the Science Center, technically in New Jersey, so right across from the World Trade Center Tower. And that's the second conference that I've gone to that really leverages an IMAX theater. And I feel like that is the best venue for conferences because you're not trying to like squint and see what is the code, like what are they trying to do? It's so obvious and it just makes the viewing experience great for everybody.
Yeah, it's a huge screen. I think I had neck pain after because I was just sitting looking up. But it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about MCP servers and how you guys are using them at Postman. I think one of the things that I would love to talk about is what MCP really is, because I think a common misconception is that it's just an API. But as I've talked to people that have really delved into MCP servers, it's a lot more than that. So do you want to kind of give your take on that?
Of course, I mean, we started looking at this like January. I mean, MCP is only 1 year old, but it took over very, very quickly. And I remember in January just hearing this for the first time. I was like, what is going on? I remember listening to one of the guys giving a presentation, and he was connecting his LLM to a document like documentation for a website to, I think it was Svelte or like a new version of Svelte, and they connected it, and they got really good results. And I was like, this is interesting. And then when I started looking into it, I was like, okay, there is something very, very special here. It is not an API, and actually I tweeted that this week because I came across that many times in the past week at React Summit, and also a few people at AI Engineer in New York. And it gets a bad rep because the first implementations for MCP servers were literally just wrapping the REST APIs. And that could get you very, very quickly, up to speed with making something work. But that's not what they are about. MCP servers, if you compare them to like the user experience for us humans. So for us humans, the user experience is a website. So you go to a website and you don't interact with the API directly on a website, right? We have the user interface that has some business logic, whatever that means, that connects all of these things together and then makes those API calls and connects to the backend systems and data. For LLMs, it's very similar. So they need an interface to connect to data and external systems. And for them, that interface is not a website. That interface is an MCP server. So I hope that just clarifies a bit. We can go deeper or we can go a different direction with this, but that's the summary.
I want to poke a little bit at that, because the way that I kind of view it is it takes this non-deterministic system of AI and it can provide a deterministic result. Like, to me, that is the value of an MCP. It also is puts AI in an interesting position to be just a natural language server. So your chat box that you're typing into is acting as a natural language server, and it's connecting that to deterministic outputs from an MCP without sacrificing all the non-deterministic value that the AI can give you in between. How does that feel as a...
Yeah, that's exactly it. So if you remember when ChatGPT came out, like 3 years ago, actually, it was ChatGPT's birthday this week. The one thing that was interesting is you will ask it something that was before their cutoff date, like the training date. And do you remember? And be like, you asking, oh, what happened? And they were like, I don't know. That's my training just is at the beginning of 2022 or whatever. So that was the problem with LLMs at that point. Now with tool calling and providing context, which is that's what the MCP stands for, Model Context Protocol, is to provide context to the LLMs. It just opens the world to the LLMs to connect to systems, data, and they don't have this problem of the training that they've been provided. That's not enough. You just need to connect to real-time data, etc. So that's a very interesting one that you mentioned there. It is making them, or making access for the LLMs easy to deterministic systems, deterministic data stores. And the key here is the LLM still has a part, because I have seen another problem, and it's not just wrapping APIs, but also just using the LLM to get data that you can get yourself. So there is also very important to make sure that you can still use that non-deterministic value that LLMs provide once that data arrives. Because if I'm just asking to return the data without processing it, well, that's a very expensive search API. Right?
You're burning tokens, you're burning GPUs, you're killing the environment to go do something that you could have done in a much different way. I saw this crazy visualization of what happens when you ask, an LLM AI to do something simple, and it just traversed so much more than just the normal, let's say, network hops to some server and come back. It does a lot.
Yeah, that's right. So it's very important to use it properly and to find, there is a lot of hype, and MCP gets a lot of hate because of the hype around it. Some of it, is granted. There's a lot of people who come and just want to use it for everything and want to make it sound, like it's the only thing that you need. It is very useful. It's a useful tool. And also, if you connect it to the LLM and you make use of that, then it's very useful. It's not a search engine. It is not for you to just aggregate a few APIs. We need to find the value. What is the LLM involvement in the process in here?
I want to talk about exactly that, the LLM's involvement and how many MCPs that you can hook up. So when you think about like an MCP as a tool that you can install as like an extension to your LLM, your AI setup, a lot of developers might think of it like a VS Code extension and install like every MCP that they think is valuable. And I've heard that this causes context bloat, or it'll
Yeah.
use too many tokens because you're connecting too many MCPs. Could you like talk about that problem a little bit and like possible solutions? Is this where
Yes.
multiple agents with different tooling comes into play?
Yeah, this problem is interesting because this problem has been out lately. Like, people have been concerned about the token consumption and the context bloat. I experienced this very early with MCP. So I remember when I was building one of the first agents using MCPs, the first thing that we found was like there were too many tools. People got crazy and they added 127 tools plus, which is the cutoff for I think one of the OpenAI models. That's when we realized, okay, OpenAI is not accepting 127 tools. We need to start cutting them. But again, that was very early. That was like back in March. So I remember having this issue, and I was like, okay, this is not the solution. I mean, you can select and deselect the tools, and then, but if you add more tools, more servers, that will just add more tools, etc. Now, the problem is not the protocol in this case. The problem is, it was in this case my implementation. And a lot of solutions have come out to fix this particular problem. And even Anthropic have come up with a solution, which is like the discoverability, the server search, where you can just dynamically load the server depending on the question. So there are ways of fixing it. It is a valid concern. It is basically one of the major issues that MCP has, but it is not the protocol itself. Is more like the implementation, and
Right.
the solutions are there for us to come up. Like the discoverability is one option, where you don't load all the tools up front. You only load the tools that the agent thinks that they need for the particular question.
Now, if these tools are authenticated, like Cloudflare has a bunch of like internal MCPs that are all behind authentication. I've noticed that, when you start an IDE, it'll prompt you for each and every one to log in. Now, that's annoying in and of itself, but I could also see it be annoying if every time you make an LLM call, it re-asks you for authentication. Is there any persistence to these tools, like once loaded and authenticated? I'm assuming in a given chat window, a chat session, they stay?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the discovery is just like the tools are still there, and all the authentication and all of that is fine. It's more the agent implementation on when to request the tool. So the agent sees a little bit of the metadata. It doesn't see everything. But if you previously have authenticated, that's a good question. I mean, I haven't tried it, but it should persist the authentication because it's still part of the server. And you touched on authentication. That's another one of the issues with MCP. But if you think about it, I mean, it's so early that if you look at the internet and websites like 10, 15 years ago, I mean, all of these things, we figured them out with time and, making progress with these different tools and things like authentication. So authentication today is super easy with WAUth and tokens, etc. But in the early days of the web, that was not the case. So you could still have the same issues. And I compare the early days of the web with the early days of MCP, because there are a few things that we have not really figured out. But with time, I think things like authentication, performance, all of those things will start coming and becoming, fixed with time.
Now, when you install the tool, that's just like mcp.json, right? Within your project, where it defines all the tools that you're using, right?
Yes. So it connects to the server URL, like a website URL.
Sure.
And then that server loads all the tools and all the definitions. And I think that was the problem. It was loading everything. And if you think about, the definitions are text and those are tokens. So what we're saying is like, we cannot add one or two MCP servers and then you loaded the entire context window of your LLM with just tool definitions, which we might use or we might not use. So that was the challenge there.
Yeah.
But I saw it coming. I mean, I saw it a long time ago, and I was like, okay, this is a problem. We came up with some solutions, but now Anthropic came up with a official recommendation for this particular problem.
Okay. And some of the most helpful ones that I've seen are, I think Serena is one, or Context 7, where
Context 7, yeah.
Context 7 is one for documentation. So you can load the most recent documentation. And that was an issue, particularly like say when Tailwind 4 came out. I had so many arguments with AI of like, no, I'm using Tailwind 4. That's not the right format. And so the idea with Context 7 is that it will help you deliver the most recent documentation so that you're not fighting whatever documentation the AI has been trained on.
Yeah, I always have Context 7 enabled. That's one of my favorite MCP servers. Let's talk about the use cases, because I think we also need to separate the different use cases for MCP servers and LLMs. The problem is we are developers, and in this case, Context 7 is a great MCP server when you're developing something and adding context to your LLM so you can code and use the coding tools. Now the problem is there are other ways of doing this for the coding use case. So if we focus on developers using LLMs to code, all of the recent arguments against MCP is because there are other ways that you can add context, especially because we are developers and we know that there are tools like CLI, so that you can approach this context problem from a different angle. So the thing is, people see that the coding problem was not very efficient with MCP. A few MCPs, like the GitHub MCP, came out and they were like, it was not very good, and people were saying, well, why you don't use the GitHub CLI? While that's true, we are focusing on just one use case, which is coding. But the interesting thing about MCP is a protocol to connect to distinct systems, and usually that goes also to systems of record, enterprise use cases, connecting systems to the LLMs and providing information, etc., which is not always coding. And the thing is, people forget that MCP is not just for coding. It was made popular by MCPs for coding, like the Playwright MCP or the GitHub MCP. We have also the Postman MCP, but it's not just for coding, it's for much more. And there are issues. Again, we will probably figure them out and fix them for the coding use case, but there is a completely separate, massive use case where people are not paying enough attention, which is the enterprise use case, the systems that are connected or need to be connected to LLMs that don't have all the CLIs or fancy things that the coding agents have today.
Yeah, I think when I think of MCPs for more general use case, people normally want access to their data. Like general AI can solve all the like random internet questions, kind of like Google can. But I think people are going to want to be like, can you look at my bank account? What have I spent in the past month, such and such? Or hey, can you order me a pizza or a good gift for my brother or something? And then immediately you're getting into like, cool, here's my credit card information, here's my bank information. And like talking about how authentication is still a little bit immature in the MCP world. Or like, let's say your bank account hasn't like done whatever linking they need to with your MCP service or whatnot. We're getting to a point, I think, where to be adopted more generally and to be a whole lot more useful generally, authentication and security is going to have to really come into play here and like link to all the services you care about.
100%. I would love to see that. I mean, I know it's still risky, but I would love to be able to connect to my data, like sensitive data. At the moment, there are a few concerns with that. But again, we probably figured that one out. There is one use case I wanted to talk about in this discussion today, and is the apps. So the part of MCP that I've been focusing on for the last 6 months is the MCP apps, or they used to be called MCP UI apps, which again, that's a use case that people are not paying enough attention. I mean, it's getting more attention recently because of ChatGPT releasing their apps SDK, and also MCP making it official. But the amount of use cases that we're gonna find with this new interaction with UI, it goes beyond the coding and the data access. It becomes more like a new way of interacting with LLMs and with these chat interfaces. So I'm happy to go on that, discuss that, because it is it's mainly what I've been focusing on, and also is very exciting. It's been the last 2 months, it's been really exciting because it's been validated. I mean, I've been looking at this for like 6 months and telling everybody, oh, MCP UI is great. We have some use cases. I'm playing with it. And then only recently we got that validation from OpenAI and Anthropic saying, hey, yes, we think this is a good idea. We're going to make it official. So that's what I'm really excited that we got validation that it was like going into the right direction.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that too. And just to make sure I understand the specifics of that, that's like so correct me if I'm wrong. If you're in ChatGPT or talking to Claude and you have a conversation going, then it can display custom UI elements within your chat, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So the issues with these LLMs is that usually they were like text based. Like you get a bunch of like a wall of text, and then you consume it that way. The thing is, for us, that's a new way of interacting with data, but we are always being used to interacting with data in a visual manner. We usually either see or click or, organize the data. And that's why websites exist. Again, you don't call an API and get a wall of text. We render that data and we sort that data and make it look nice. And then we take actions on that data. So the thing with this is a few agents started to render their own first-party UI, as I call it. And basically, I don't know if you remember, ChatGPT started to show a little bit more of like UI like 6 months ago, where you sometimes get like an image, etc. So the clients, in this case, like ChatGPT, they can take the text and make it look pretty, etc. The problem is when you have a third party, you're not going to be making that data look good for every single website or application in the world. So they decided to connect to third-party data, in this case via MCP. And that third-party data is not just text. It can render an entire UI that takes that data and make it look good. And now, again, the interaction is not just presenting the data, it's also, there is a back and forth between that UI and the LLM. So you click a button, and then that button is going to send a follow-up prompt to the LLM with the new instructions or asking to do something else for you. So that's right. We are rendering UI inside the chat, but that UI does not come from the chat, in this case, ChatGPT. It comes from my website or from the third-party connector that you are linked to.
What tools are people using to build this UI? Is it your standard web technology stuff?
Yes, and you can use anything. Actually, there is, I know, Amy, you like Redwood. I've been following a guy whose name is, I think it's Gavin. He's been building ChatGPT apps on Redwood. But you can use anything. I mean, you can, the simplest one is just literally HTML and JavaScript. How they work is an iframe, and we're going back to the good old days of the web with just iframes. They work. There is a security consideration here because we are basically just injecting any arbitrary code into a chat app. So the chat app needs to be secure and not execute any random JavaScript. So that's why we are using an iframe. But yeah, you can use anything. Any framework of your choice, you can use it. And it's just basically HTML that gets sent to the LLM via the tool call, and it renders inside an iframe. And that's the basic architecture of how these MCP apps work.
That's so crazy to me to think about building an application or a website inside like ChatGPT and its interface. I mean, that kind of flips all the current UI that we've had the past 30 years on its head, But with that said, I was talking to somebody and they were just saying, I'm not sure that we've necessarily nailed the UI for AI yet. You know, we have defaulted to this chat, and it's definitely what helped people to latch on to understand how to use it. But is it the best case? Because when you are in this chat environment, typically you default to I'm talking to a person because that's how we've used that interface before. And so the thing about AI and where you can really leverage it is you're not talking to a single person. You can set up personas where you can talk to multiple people at one time or trying to get these different interactions to get the best results. And so at that point, is chat the best thing? Probably not. But because you have these options for UI and like different interactions for how that works, like that starts to push the boundaries of what the interface that we've known the last 2 or 3 years to be. That's awesome.
Yeah, so the chat, that's another debate. Like, is chat the final interface for UI, for AI? We don't have a better one yet.
Yep.
That's the thing. Like, people say, oh, well, we don't like chat. What is chat the single interface for AI? We don't have a better one yet. And it's also not perfect. I remember reading an article about how communication transport works. And chat is a very slow one. Like, you can, with one click, you can provide the intent that it will take you 3 or 4 sentences writing them in chat. So certain things are not very useful by just typing them, because I might as well just do the thing. That's where MCP UI comes in. You have the hybrid where you can still do chat, but for certain interactions where it's simpler or quicker or better to visually inspect and click and just use the patterns that we're used to in user experience, for the last 30 years. That's where it's very interesting, because I do agree text and chat is probably is good enough for now, but there should be a better way of interacting with AI, and not forgetting about all of those years of experience on how human interaction with machines work with the traditional web, inputs and etc. So that's why I found it really, really interesting, because there is that blend between the two modes.
I think that when you view the chat interface, we're trying to take all of our tools and jam them into one place. And it's good because it has cross-cutting concerns. You can, like I said, be talking about your bank account and then go think about something else, right? You can do 2 things at once. The flip side is you put AI into an existing like application, like, you've got your Google Sheets and you jam AI into there, and then it can help you with that specific task. But going
You're
back to the chat,
retrofitting it.
you're retrofitting it, but
Yeah.
it's good for single purpose things that you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to go deep instead of going wide. But if you take the chat interface again and you zoom out to like a 100,000 foot view, in a sense, you're typing something into a text box to get UI that you could, let's say it's an iframe where you enter your credit card details. Like I said, if we haven't figured out security so it can do it on your behalf, I'll just show you an iframe where you can do it. What did I just describe? Typing something into a text box to get UI where you can enter in your credit card details. Is that a website? Is that just are we just coming up with a different way to natural language search the thing that we want to do, let's say across the entire web? And then, oh, what do you know? I just type in, give me pizza, please. And then Domino's checkout form shows up in my chat. And it took away a couple steps, sure. But ultimately, it's accomplishing the same workflow. I don't know. I like it went off in my brain where I'm like, it's kind of the same thing at the end of the day.
So there are a couple of things that are interesting. First is, of course, it has to be useful. Like, there is no point of adding this is just for a search engine. I think the capabilities of LLMs is more like, personalization, knowing things that are not obvious, aggregation, finding those details that might not be obvious, apart from many other generation, text input, whatever. But the funny thing is the 2 camps of where this is going is, on one hand, the super app like ChatGPT, where now we are
The
putting
Jarvis,
MCP apps. Yeah,
the
we're putting
one
MCP
interface
apps.
to rule them all. Yeah.
And that sounds great. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a great idea. The other option is, well, every single website, like you mentioned in Excel, now we
Right.
have a chat box in Excel, and then you put it. And the two have their disadvantages, because I don't really want to have a chatbot in every single application I'm using, because the chatbot might be different. It doesn't know me, doesn't know my context, which is what AI is very good at. And also, it might not be the same user experience. Building a chatbot is very, very hard. We did it at Postman, and it was very, very hard to get it right in terms of the user experience, and also all the complications with the different models, etc. So building a chatbot inside every single product, I don't like it, my personal opinion. But also the super app, I like the idea as well. I mean, that's where ChatGPT is going now with MCP apps and ChatGPT widgets, where, yes, I mean, I'm already on ChatGPT, and I just want to keep my flow. I don't want to move to a separate application. I just want to buy my pizza while, talking to ChatGPT, and I don't want to go anywhere else. And ChatGPT knows that I like pepperoni, so he knows that he can just order it for me. So that's where I think it's probably going. Who knows which one is going to be the winner? But I do agree, like, chat is not perfect, but I don't want too many chat boxes everywhere, because you are just like retrofitting, as you mentioned, Amy, retrofitting AI into an existing workflow. And I believe the new use cases are more interesting. So things that were not possible before with AI that are now possible. And I think that's a good example I can give. The issue right now with ChatGPT apps is people are trying to retrofit those apps inside ChatGPT, and they are not. I mean, they're impressive, but they're not that useful. Like I saw people putting a game, and I was like, okay, yes, you can play like a tic-tac-toe as a good demo, but what is
Farmville.
the well, actually, social games. Now, going into games,
Social games, yeah.
the thing is, when you think about what are the unique qualities of the LLM that will produce completely brand new use cases, that happened with the mobile revolution in the late aughts. That was like, you never know that mobile gaming, or like you can order a car or you can track your driver with GPS, because GPS didn't exist, because you didn't have a phone with the internet on your in your pocket. Those use cases were created because of the new capabilities. Can you imagine if we just decided just to put the clunky desktop websites? That wouldn't work, right?
You did that for a while.
Well,
it was like you had to zoom in.
but you see that we tried to retrofit it, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
It became better when the mobile first, or the mobile enhanced applications came out that started using those unique features like GPS, or the camera, or the internet in your pocket. Now with ChatGPT is the same, or with the LLMs is the same. I see a lot of people trying to figure out, okay, how do we fit this? And some of the use cases make sense, but then I came up with one example of something that is completely brand new, and I created a game, and hopefully it's going to become a social game. At the moment, it's only single player, but once ChatGPT released have you seen the chat feature, like group chat? No, it's crazy. This chat, I don't understand who would use this, but I have one use case, but I would love to know any other use cases. So you can create like a group chat, like a WhatsApp group or whatever, but with ChatGPT involved. And it's a bit strange. It's like, why would you chat with your friends and then ChatGPT is chiming in the background? Why do we want to invite the LLM to our group conversation?
I could see
sounds
it from
weird.
maybe a business perspective. Like, I'm adding context, Brad's adding context. That might be
D&D games.
Yeah, well,
ChatGPT is
that's
the
where I'm
dungeon
going.
master.
That's where
Something
I'm going.
like that.
Okay, you just read my mind. That was a game that I created. So basically, the key here is ChatGPT is good at generating text. So I created a game where you could just say, I'm in the city, I want to start a quest, like a D&D game, where ChatGPT becomes the dungeon master, and then it tells you with real life things where to go, what to do. And then I integrated with MCP UI, so you can see, your scorecard and update the score and points, and
That's so
take
cool.
pictures, etc. But that works because it is special for like how the LLM is involved in this case. Like the LLM is driving, it is showing you where to go. He's pulling real details of the world because he has everything, the world knowledge of. And it was quite fun, actually. I played in New York after you left, Amy, last week. We decided to play with some friends, and we ended up in a really interesting quest where things that was by chance happened, but only happened because we decided to let ChatGPT tell us where to go and what to do. And it was actually super fun. It was a very interesting experience. At some point, we were led to this weird door in a really hidden place, and then we got there, and then we heard people screaming. I was like, "What's going on?" And there were some people trapped in an elevator in the lift. And we were trying to, well, okay, this is part of the game. Yeah, well, it is now. Call 911. People actually stuck, and we were like, okay, ChatGPT took us there to that door. It was a coincidence that some people were trapped and we had to rescue them, but it was part of the game. It was part of the experience that was unique in this new mode where you can chat with your friends and the LLM and have some UI to show you what's going on. We didn't go to that place, by the way. We ended up going to a different karaoke bar after seeing these people stuck in the lift. But that's one of the use cases where I'm like, okay, there must be a completely new wave of applications that we cannot even think. Like it's very hard to imagine today because this is a complete new medium of interaction with machines, and things that were not possible before are possible now, instead of trying to retrofit old use cases into the new ones.
That's a crazy story.
That's really cool. And I feel like ChatGPT, OpenAI is doing a good job of enabling like new things when it comes to AI. Like other companies, I feel like are just focusing on models and making them faster and bigger context and better intuition. But like you could tell that OpenAI really wants to use this to make something new. And I think that's what the general population is going to want out of AI is like, cool, what else can it do? What new things can it unlock?
Yeah, the consumer AI, I think, is one of the use cases.
Exactly.
We can talk about the enterprise use, but consumer AI, I think they are leaning towards that a lot. And they have 900 million users on their chat. Another story from New York was like, hey, do you know where is this place? And they were like, I don't know, ask ChatGPT. That's what reply I got from someone. And I was like, okay, so it is part of the culture now. It is part of, they were like, oh, no, just Google it. Or, I don't know. You're like, what do you mean? Just ask ChatGPT and I'll tell you where to go. And I was looking for like a place where they're showing the Formula One. And I asked the bartender, I was like, I don't know, just ask ChatGPT. And I was like, great. And I did find a place to go and watch Formula One. So it is part of the culture, and it is transforming society and culture. So it's a good place to start building and thinking about all these use cases that are going to come out of this new way of interacting with machines.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to dive deeper into how MCP apps work or any other details on that?
What do you want to do, Brad? I know we're getting
Like,
getting close on time, but there's like still
ask
so much.
Spicy. I see a spicy question in there.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Ask it.
Okay. You're probably familiar with the YouTuber Theo Brown. He came out and said MCP is dead or dying. It's getting eclipsed by other AI technologies, and I personally disagree, and I roll my eyes at that. Nothing can be that dead so early, and I think MCP has a ton of upside. But I want to know what you think, and even where a thought like that could have come from.
I think it's an extreme view, and I think this extreme views work on the internet because you get more like attention, etc. It's never that black and white. And the thing is, he's putting one of the arguments, and I agree with most of the arguments. Again, those issues are valid. It's not like I'm saying, no, you are insulting my precious technology that is perfect. It's not. It's got so many issues. Now, the only thing, the part where I disagree with that video was that, first of all, it was focused on the coding use case, which we discussed earlier. It's just one of the use cases. And yes, there are issues with the coding use case where it's potentially not efficient, or there are better ways of doing it. And that's why Anthropic came out and published those blogs that he was discussing. And the second thing is you cannot just discard an entire technology because it doesn't work for your use case. And also, it's very early. Like, you can't just say it's only like a year old, and you can say it's dead, it's not going to happen. And the other thing is, okay, what's the alternative? Yes, you can say MCP is not great and it has all these problems. They haven't fixed authentication, but I'm on the side of, hey, let's make it better and let's try to make it work. There is a place for it. These are the use cases. People are doing really cool stuff with it. There is no point saying, oh, it's dead, it's going away. It's not going away. We just need to make it better and improve it. So it works for the views. It works for having polarizing views. Of course, they will make more an impact when you're trying to speak to an audience. But the reality is, no black and white. MCP has great things. MCP has bad things, but it's not going anywhere, in my opinion.
Same. I think it has a lot of support from the big AI companies as well. So I think we'll see it continue to advance and evolve. I can already tell you it's done good things for me. Even if it wasn't directly related to coding, but just having access to authenticated systems to pull data. I built a year in review application at work to like grab your data and like write you a self-assessment type of thing. And
Nice.
MCP played a role in that. So that was really cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I love your distinction too of like, we're developers, so we naturally think in a coding context, but there's so many more use cases beyond that. I think that's a really good point.
Yes, and let's just make it better. I think that's the other thing. I'm an
Yeah.
optimist. I think we should just try to make technology better every day. And if it doesn't work, we need to find a way to make it work and improve it.
Yeah. Well, are you guys good if I go into the next? Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Sweet. Well, let's move into the next segment of the show, which is our picks and plugs, where we pick something that we like and we plug something that generally we've been working on. So, Brad or Ruben, do you guys have picks and plugs?
I'm the guest. I shouldn't be going first.
I can go.
Okay.
So, and I actually have 2 picks this week. I was debating about whether to say one, but I'll go ahead and pick 2. So, I just finished this book over Thanksgiving called Dead Money, and I loved it mostly because of the background that the story was set against. So, Dead Money is about, this happens like within the first chapter, so I'm not spoiling anything, but basically there's a startup company that's kind of like an Uber. They've changed all the names, but it's like an Uber company that's a rocket ship. They're taking off and the CEO is murdered, but he has written into his will a week before he dies that his murderer has to be on trial before the shares of his company and all of his estate gets processed. And so the police department didn't really do anything. So they call in the FBI to figure out who committed this murder, who killed him. And then the VC company, because they have an interest in getting all this guy's shares, they pull some strings to get one of their lawyers paired up with the FBI. So I love the fact that it's the backdrop is San Francisco, that it's a startup world, that they're trying to have all these conversations and figure out what's going on. So thoroughly enjoyed it. A good little mystery. It was a quick read. So you should check it out. It's called Dead Money. That's why the clause that he wrote into his will is a dead money clause. That's where the title comes from. The second thing I'm going to pick is there's a new podcast out. I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's only 2 episodes out. And it's by Adam Wathan. It's called Morning Walks with Adam. and just
Ooh.
think as he's like walking in the morning, he's just recording himself and how he's thinking about things. And what's really interesting is right now he's at a place where he's like, what was making Tailwind money previously is no longer making Tailwind money. And so how do we pivot our business and what do we do moving forward? And so he's kind of talking about the role of AI with front end. He's talking about Tailwind and like how do we continue to build these components when people really want to have their own style or they don't want it to look like everything else on the internet? How do we think about these things now? So I listened to the first 2 episodes this morning. It's really good. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to hearing more about what he has planned. And then
Can I interject here? I love
yeah.
just the way Adam speaks and thinks about things. And like, okay, cool, Tailwind. I like Tailwind. It's fine. But like, I love it when he talks about like business,
Mhm.
because that is like such a different take on SaaS. It's not like some
Yep.
indie hacker SaaS. It's like something that's still small, but it's progressed past the first like X amount of users to where like decisions have big impact. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's really cool, and I love his take on things. Also,
Yeah.
he like lifts weights and stuff, and I feel like, you know, there's a connection there. So yeah, this
The
stuff's great.
the spoiler and all that, hopefully I don't ruin my pick for anybody, is that basically he's like, with Tailwind Plus, we have all these components because I mean that's the premium part. That's how they make their money. We have all these components that somebody can put on their website. But again, if somebody wants to take pride in what they do and say, like, I coded this, or they don't want it to look like Tailwind, what is the use case there? And so he was saying like Dribble is really cool because you can go in, you get a bunch of inspiration pieces, but he's like, what good does it do if we create one component and then somebody comes in and like, yeah, I want my app to look like that, or I want to use this styling, but there's only one component there. And so trying to do that mass scale, you know, or if you say, I want to update the style of Tailwind just so we can evolve, all of a sudden you're talking about having to update 600 components. So to your point, it's really interesting how he thinks through that. It's code, but it's more than code. It's the business behind it. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then I'm going to plug, this is maybe a little controversial. So I'm going to plug Advent of CSS and Advent of JavaScript. I've been trying to figure out what to do with this year. And part of it is because there was like no time the way the calendar fell between Thanksgiving and December 1st. So I've like been trying to struggle to get the landing page up for 2025 and figure out what I was going to do with it. But I've have my challenges and all that figured out. So I'll be releasing something. It'll be a day late since this is the second, but you should go check out Advent of CSS or Advent of JavaScript if you want to participate in the annual challenges. So
Awesome.
who wants to go next?
I can go next. So I think I already was at the pick. I already mentioned that I got a PlayStation 5, so I'm going to start playing Ghost of Jotei, I think it's called. I played the first game. I really liked like Japanese culture and history. I went to Japan this year and I loved it. So I decided to get the game. The only problem is I don't know if I'm going to get time to play it. Hopefully I can get time during the Christmas period. But I believe that's going to impact my vibe coding career a bit. So I'm going to be busy playing, and the vibe coding we might have to stop until January. So that's my pick. The plug will be, of course, I am now working on the Postman product. So I moved teams to the main core product, and I'm now looking at the MCP client. So we've been talking about MCP and how people are using MCP. Well, we have the best MCP client out there. I mean, I know I am biased, but I have tried the MCP clients for testing MCPs. And our MCP client, I don't know, people maybe have not tried it, is very good. Great developer experience. We support the ChatGPT apps SDK as well, so you can test your ChatGPT apps with Postman. And if you remember Postman from where you were testing your APIs a long time ago, well, and now Postman, you can also test your MCP servers if you are building MCP servers. So have a look, take a look and give it a try. Our MCP inspector is super good. And if you have a problem with it, and if it's not working, well, just ping me. I'm working on the product, so I should be able to fix it for you. And I think that's it from me.
Sweet.
I'm also going to pick a video game. I got Hades 2 recently, and I've just been going ham on it. It's so easy to pick up and play on the Switch too. And so I've been doing a ton of runs there. I'm like 50 runs deep, and I've cleared almost all the game. I'm getting close to the end, but it's been kicking my butt lately. And then a plug, I'll just go Cloudflare. The UI team, I feel like the dashboard team has been on fire lately with like performance improvements and developer experience improvements on our end, which is just awesome. It's kind of getting like a new look and feel coming up soon with the new component library that we have and the new design system. So it's going to start feeling like really fresh, really fast. So keep a lookout on your dashboards and wait for the new features to drop.
Sweet. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you are listening on your podcatcher of choice, please leave a rating and review. That helps other people find the show, helps us get great guests and sponsors. For now, that's all we got. Thanks again, Ruben. It was fun.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thanks, chat, for hanging out.